Hello and welcome all of you to these coming home conversations, where today we have Aleksandra Zecevic as our interviewee, with Aleksandra Corsi and Karen Delport as our studio guests. It's a true delight for me to welcome you today, and I really want to thank you for taking part in this new venture that I'm starting. It means the world to me to have amazing women like yourselves participate. And I know it also takes courage with something new, and there are a few levels of new here for some of us. One is obviously the venture itself, and the other is that obviously this is something that is a platform which is going to be shared with other people as well. So that takes some courage. I know a few of you are used to being in the spotlight here today, so that's probably not too much of a challenge. But nonetheless, even just joining and meeting with a group of women that you've never had anything to do with before is quite something. Not many women have the courage to do this kind of thing. So thank you. And also with that, I just want to say you really feel most at home here. The conversations are coming home. And I want you all to feel most welcome and at home, and know that I will be guiding you right through the whole process. So there's nothing to worry about, there's no pressure, and really I want it to feel like a conversation amongst friends, amongst people who know each other. So just by way of a little bit of introduction, the conversations are part of a series, of a greater series beyond coming home, called Extraordinary Women, Ordinary Lives, or Ordinary Woman, Extraordinary Lives, whichever way you want to look at it. And what inspired me to start these was that, first of all, I mean, I just know so many phenomenal women, and that many of us, we're all really extraordinary. We are. And often we think of extraordinary as in people who sort of in the headlights, or you know, and that we see in the big lights and that kind of thing. But that really isn't what it's about. For me, extraordinary is about women who have the courage to try new endeavors, to open their hearts, to be striving for something new, for something different, for something progressive, and which all of us really should be doing. It's a beautiful thing. And the behind this all really is a sense of really wanting to foster community and connection and collaboration across the globe, where we realize that we're all part of the same thing. We're all part of the same entity, of the same space called humankind, really. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read the poem Homecoming, and you're welcome to just make yourselves comfortable, and whatever, if you want to close your eyes, you're more than welcome to do that. And I'll get started with that. Homecoming. After a long time unwooed, living alongside rather than in yourself. On seeing this and feeling suddenly homesick for something you didn't know existed. Peace. You might long to rush at yourself, dive headlong into the safety of home, and wonder why you keep missing. Wonder why you and your life keep floating away from each other. Knowing that the anchor was thrown too far from the boat all that time ago. Reunion can't come soon enough. Still, it takes time to reacquaint, time to trust the tide that was always trying to take you home, and that will pick you up and return you yet. Okay, that's our poem. And I'm going to move from there into, actually, before I do that, what I wanted to also articulate was that we will be getting on to where everyone is from and where we're located across the globe. But for me, there's huge excitement in that we are connecting with Aleks in Canada today. I don't know, but for me, it really creates a sense of great excitement. And I had to rush off this morning to my atlas to have a good look at and see exactly where Aleks is, because while we've known each other a few years, I've never known where in Canada she was from. So she explained a little bit of this to me, but in my map, I saw that according to my geography, she finds herself at the really close to the southern, southeastern end of Canada, around the lakes, the 5 Great Lakes. I think it's 5 Great Lakes in that region, very close to the border of the USA, and on the same longitude as New York. I had to even ask Aleks whether the time zones in Canada were the same, because sometimes it's quite mind-boggling to try and navigate all these various time zones. So that's really exciting. And with Palesa and Karen and myself all being based in South Africa, the thoughts that came to mind was that we do often hear of people immigrating to Canada, heading off to safer shores, as it were. That's usually why they go there. They find that they think that that's a stable place to go. But apart from that, actually, it's not very often that we hear speak of Canada. And I think that's probably why the sense of excitement at inviting you right across the globe into this conversation today. So welcome all of you. And welcome, Aleks. And yeah, from there, I'd like to introduce all of you to Palesa, Nkosi, and Karen Delport. Palesa, just starting with you. I've known Palesa for several years now, and my experience of her is as an incredibly passionate and alive woman who goes for just exactly what it is that she wants. And in addition to that, Palesa has been an enormous champion of most of the projects that and endeavors that I've put out there. So she holds a very special place in my heart, as does Karen, actually. So that's a little bit about Palesa. And Karen and I go quite some years back, many years back, and she's always been a steady sort of bedrock in my landscape. Someone that somehow knows when to turn up and when to show up at the right time. Karen is also quite an enigma in many ways. That's the way I experience her. She very much straddles two very different worlds, the one of the concrete legal world, and then also has another side to her, which is much more, that touches much more on the intangible and the timeless. So welcome to these two dear friends, Palesa and Karen. And with that, I'd like to invite you, Palesa, perhaps to start with an introduction by way of letting us know where you're from, where you're based now, and something that we might find interesting about you.
Good afternoon, ladies. I'm not sure if I would know what is interesting about me, but I grew up in the beautiful country of Lesotho. And then I moved to South Africa for university, and I've been here ever since. I have family here, so this is still home to me. I have 3 children. One is going to university next year, and so I feel very old now because I just can't believe that she's 18 this year. And then there's a 13-year-old and one who's turning 11 next month. By profession, I am a doctor. I'm an anesthetist. Aleks will probably know me as an anesthesiologist, but I'm an anesthetist in South Africa. And I'm passionate, like Guiomar says, about what I do, about women empowerment, about women, going and reaching high for their dreams. And so I'm still in the process of, getting better, getting better educated, becoming a better mother. And that's basically me.
Oh, that's wonderful, Palesa. I'm always marvel at how you manage your life with so much on the go. And you are really extraordinary in what you managed to achieve. Thank you.
Yeah.
Karen, welcome.
Hi, Guiomar and Aleksandra and Palesa. Thank you for those kind words, Guiomar. Thank you very much. So, to get to me, I was born in Port Elizabeth. It's a coastal town. And I've been living in Johannesburg, I'd say, for the past 25-ish years. I have a 15-year-old son. And yes, I feel as if my life is a balancing act. And I always feel that the balance is elusive. So I'm between work and home. And I try and fit other things in, but it's a constant challenge. So something interesting, I can't think of anything interesting. I think all of our lives are interesting, and nothing comes to mind now, but perhaps later.
Thanks, Karen.
It's me.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And thank you so much for joining today. I know that there's a lot that you also handle in your life with all you professional women who are joining today. I know there's a lot you have to handle. So thank you for making the time on your precious weekend to be here.
Pleasure.
And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Aleks. Firstly, in relation to how we know each other. Aleks and I go back, I was just working out probably about 3.5 years now, which is when our relationship first started, where we met through some studies that we were doing together, some international studies. And I was immediately struck by this woman. I didn't meet everyone on the program, and not that I met Aleks at the time. We've become more closely acquainted in the last couple of years, but by the enormity of her desire and her passion to sort of have impact on all levels. I remember at the time that we started the program, Aleks made a concerted effort to connect with every single person, and there were quite a lot of people, or she declared that that was her intention, who was on the program, and that I found quite extraordinary. So Aleks is also, and I don't want to give too much away about her because I'd like her to introduce herself, but she's in the medical sciences field, a professor in that field, at a top world university in a place called London. Who would have guessed? I certainly would have, that there was a place called London in Canada, but in a place called London in Canada. And I know that through her work, she's always striving to encompass and touch more and more of humanity as a whole. and that she has quite an alternative way of teaching and of approaching life and engaging in life. So Aleks, with that, I'd like to welcome you to this beautiful conversation today on coming home, and thank you for stepping in really at the last minute to join us today.
I feel honored, Guiomar, to be here in the company of yourself and Palesa and also Karen. Thank you so very much for opening up the possibilities to create these connections. For me, from South Africa up to Canada is diagonal line of excitement across the globe. And it's so beautifully joyful and empowering to see you, to get to know you, and to have a conversation with you. Beautiful.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, Palesa and Karen, I'm just going to ask you for a few minutes while I interview Aleks. Just if you could switch off your cameras, that would be great. Thank you for that. And Aleks, I can't tell you what a delight it is to have you here as our guest. I know you had to shift some arrangements and that on your weekend as well to be here. I thought we were going to be interviewing you in a moving car because I know you're moving.
I am in a car. And it's right. My intention is to sit in a little cafe and sit outdoors because we still have these COVID rules running, right. But it's raining, so I cannot be outdoors. So this background is actually a photograph I took a few years back, and I am in the car. And I decided, I was just like, this can be a home for the next hour. Why not?
Well, that just sounds brilliant. That's fantastic. That's so amazing. And Aleks, I really, there's so much that I could say about you. And, you know, while I was planning for and preparing to speak to you today, I was just reflecting on some of the conversations that we've had before, and really how your life is really like an epic novel or movie, really in what you've lived in such a short time, really. And so I know there's so much that we could go into today. There's just so many aspects that obviously with our limited time, we're going to only touch on a few of them. Some which I'll ask you around that have caught my attention particularly, and others around you introducing yourself as you'd like to in the context of home and where you find and have found home in your life.
Absolutely.
So you go ahead and introduce yourself on that level. That'd be great.
Thank you. This conversation we had in the past, and especially yesterday, made me really reflect deeply on all the homes that I have shared and that I have created in this lifetime. And I'm just fascinated of how soul can choose the journey that will take you through experiences and enrich this tapestry of adventure that human life actually is. And I cannot even count of how many places I created to call home, but they were on 2 continents in about 4 countries, and throughout life, who knows how many apartments, houses, tents, and places that I have, trailer parks where I have crashed. And it was always important to know where I'm going to sleep tonight, because I think that is what also creates home. But that is like a physical level, being here on earth and living life on earth. But there's another side of home, that belonging. Where do I belong? And when I was 19 or 20 years old, with my friends, I went for a retreat where we were kind of emptying our minds. We were just talking about whatever comes to mind. So after a week of that, you're really a little bit spaced out. And we were coming back home, and in a train, I put my head out through the window, and it was very windy. And I was looking in the sky, and I saw one star that really attracted me. And for some reason, my soul decided to go to that star and look down to earth and this space between us. And I still felt at home. So that experience, a very young age experience of I belong to something much more bigger and grander than what I can take, what I can sense with my senses, that stayed with me. So I think my home is so much bigger, and our roots and joint roots and interconnectedness between us is so much larger than what we experience in 3 dimensions.
That's amazing, and it takes me back to the poem that I read a little bit earlier, and around that anchor. It's almost as though you anchored. You realized that your anchor was not necessarily a physical thing, that you anchored into in a much bigger way into a physical location or destination.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I work with students in health sciences at university here in London, in Canada. And what I've noticed with these new generations, unfortunately we drag them, but what I've noticed with them, that they come as a souls, they come expanded. And we try to kind of constrain them into these boxes of rules, regulations, and conditioning of how to function in societal terms. But they're larger than that, and they know it, because they came with the knowledge of what's going to happen in the next 100 years. And more I, as a teacher, as a professor, open space for them to express themselves and to, allow themselves to express this grandiosity that they feel. Better they are, better I am, and I think better the future university is going to be.
That's just so beautiful. I'm getting tingles just listening to you say that, having 4 children myself. So knowing that certainly mine haven't arrived in the usual mold and in the way that I would have expected, being, having grown up as an A-type personality and my, and the father of the children as well, to some extent, and then these children who just don't conform, who just don't fit the mold. So I relate to that quite deeply myself, I must say. And Aleks, I want to just also then go back a little bit to your history, in a sense, of your life, because I think it would be of interest to the ladies here today and those others listening, around where it is you come from, and where you're going to, where you're now, where you're going to. So, what are your origins? What is where did you start?
Yes, I was born and raised in former Yugoslavia, so the place that fell apart and it doesn't exist anymore. So it's like 6 new little countries in between Greece and Austria and Italy and Hungary. So it was very, very interesting. I started when I was about 30 years old, and I had to immigrate from former Yugoslavia because there was a civil war there. I decided that that's not the game I want to play. I could not kill for an idea. And I decided, okay, it's time to move on. But even in the childhood, I knew that I will not stay at the place where I was born. And I will transition somewhere. And I always, in my mind, it was somewhere up north. And then I ended up in Sweden. So I immigrated to Sweden and I lived there for a couple of years, but that was not the place where I felt belonging. There were too many, it was overly structured for my creativity. And then I decided, okay, I'm going to go to Canada, do some schooling there. Applied. I had master's degree already, so I applied for another master's. And the day I arrived to Canada, my plane landed, and the gateway that takes you into the building, the first 3 steps I took on a gateway, this is what happened. Home again. And I just like, wait a minute, I've never been here. I've never been on this continent. I've never walked this land. Why am I sighing, and why am I feeling like I'm returning back home? I still don't have an answer to that. but it's a very profound memory that I have, and I'm looking for what is about this place and land that makes me feel at home. So I landed to Canada, went through school, worked a little bit, went through school again, did the PhD, and then ended up as a prof at university. And I think what teaching at university taught me is to observe humans as souls, not in their human form or what society tells me I should think about them. Because I saw 300 students in my classroom, and I said, what if some of them were my teachers in my past life? I really need to give them respect and gratitude for what they taught me. And they're still teaching me from where they're sitting right now. So how about I respect everybody equally? And students resonated phenomenally with that. And that's where I kind of shifted into the space of knowing that you're a Guiomar and that you're female and that you're in South Africa and that you're mother of 4, but also seeing this beautiful soul that is wearing that avatar that you have in here, and trying to really connect with that soul on top of liking you as a person.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Thanks, Aleks. And I think what was coming to mind as you were speaking just towards the end about your students and how you regard them is just around the world of hierarchy and how, in a sense, perhaps the old hierarchies are needing to collapse, because it's essentially what I'm hearing you saying that you're doing is you collapsing those old hierarchies and not saying, well, I'm the professor, I'm the one, you could do that from a personality perspective, from an ego perspective. And of course, you hold that position of power over them, but that you're not doing that. And perhaps that's something of ushering in a new era around different types of hierarchies, which are not related to control and needing to manipulate other people.
I think a huge is coming. Big shift is going to happen in coming years. I think new generations are already created with the knowledge of greater equality. And the big systems I've heard from those who know more or channel better than me, big systems are going to go through a big transition, and that is health system, education system, politics system, everything, financial systems. So everything is going to go. And I think we're seeing glimpses everywhere, glimpses of how this is going to work. But I'm super, super excited because I see wonderful inspiration in these young people who we're trying to box in. And when you give them space, you suddenly see this creativity explode and this empowerment just flourish. And that's miracle. Beautiful.
So Aleks, just with that, I'd like to just take the conversation a little bit back more to the personal level around you and some of what you've shared with me in the past around, you've beautifully described your, in a nutshell, your journey, but I know that it hasn't been an easy voyage. I just can't imagine finding yourself in Sarajevo in those years. I know you said that you exited quite early, but being you're an only child and being very close to your parents, you had to make a quick, almost, it sounds like an emergency exit to leave the country because of the circumstances. And I know that life was not easy for you when you were in Sweden, and that you've spoken about and you've said you're okay with us sharing around this today, around how you reached a really, really low point where you found yourself really in a way without identity, without anywhere that you could call home amongst people who perhaps were not that welcoming of you, or people from more developing countries, even to the extent of not being welcome, made to feel welcome if you did not look like the residents of of that particular nation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know you've been to great depths there, and yeah, if you could maybe just tell us a little bit around what it was like. Obviously we don't have a lot of time to go into it in a lot of depth, but to have that sense of like really not belonging anywhere or feeling like anywhere was home.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Guiomar, for bringing that up. I feel strong enough today to talk about all these experiences. The war was a very interesting experience because the logic of war is completely different from logic of peace. A national hero in a war is actually a mass murderer in a peace. So if there are so many parallels that one can make, but I had to leave everything. And there was a profound moment when you just take 2 bags and go somewhere to start your new life because you cannot stay where you were. And there's this openness of everything being possible. I can go anywhere. Like I had zero anchor at the moment when I left war. I worked for United Nations headquarters, and luckily I had the job when I left, and I was in Serbia for a couple of months before going to Sweden. And I was super, super lucky to get the job in Sweden within 10 days. I worked in a refugee camp, and then I worked for Ministry of Immigration there for refugees from Bosnia and from former Yugoslavia. So unfortunately, in a war, I saw what it looks like when somebody else kills you, because I was on the front line. I saw the red dot moving on my body. So it was just a matter of milliseconds if I'm going to be killed or not killed. But then in Sweden, another touch with, connecting and anchoring into life and having home was I lost hope. I was trying so many things. I was trying to go back to school. I was trying to I had a job. I had minimum security was there, but I had no vision of what my life is going to look like. So at one point I decided to check out. Life was not worth living. And the morning, and I decided to do that, I had this thought just shoot through my head. And the question was, did you try everything? And I sincerely couldn't say that I tried everything. I tried some things. I tried things that I thought were good for me. I tried the things that I thought I wanted, but I didn't try everything. So I just said to myself, okay, you have plan A, you can kill yourself anytime you want, but why don't you try other things that you have never considered and then see what happens. So I'm right now living my plan B. And I cannot tell you of how inspiring and phenomenal it is to live your dreams and beyond. I've overachieved in Canada my wildest dreams. And I share this with my students, and I tell them, before you go into space of no return, always kind of test the waters of plan B, see what happens. You can always go back.
And Aleks, I know, I mean, that's quite something. I know now you're strong enough to talk about it, but I think it's hard to imagine reaching that point and actually finding yourself at that level of physical, just completely ungroundedness and not feeling part of this earth. So just want to acknowledge, that for you and the experience that you had in all of that, where so many of us were so far removed on other corners of the world, experiencing other things, but not what you went through in that time.
These strong lessons teach you what is that I want to focus on. And another shift that happened in the way I used to think was, I really don't want to waste my time on being angry, on being, resistant to the flow of river of life. I want to flow with it. I want to see the good. And more I do this, more I'm becoming aware that our creative process and how we come to create what we came to Earth to create is actually just pointing energy and focusing it in a certain direction. So I decided a few years back, I'm just not going to go into negative.
Yeah.
I'm just going to focus on positive things. And sometimes it works. Most of the time, now it works. But at the beginning, it didn't. I was very angry. I was very, it took time and a lot of meditation and a lot of spiritual work to get to this space. But it's possible. That's whoever struggles with any aspect of what they're here to learn, I'm just saying it's possible. Stick with it, stay with it. It's possible.
Aleks, that's such an inspiration. And as I say, honestly, we could be here for days on end talking about all the things that are possible and that you've lived and the wisdom that you have to share. But at this point, I'd like to invite Palesa and Karen back in just to join the conversation. You'd like to put your, yeah. Thank you. And just welcome back, Palesa, Karen. And yeah, if I'd like to invite both of you to join the conversation with any acknowledgement you might have of Aleks, or anything you'd like to ask or know more about, or any contribution you'd like to make to the conversation.
Well, if I can say something, I just think that it's such an inspirational story. I think we often think that, we're going through hardships, but I just cannot imagine having to leave your place of birth and just leave everything to escape war. So and then on top of that, trying to find a life beyond that. And I just think it's such an inspirational story. So amazing, Aleksandra. just so amazing. It just inspires all of us, because it's not just war. It's not just all the hard. It's basically all the hardships that we go through as women, and as a young woman to have left your place of origin and to start a new life and to be where you are right now. Yeah, it's really inspirational. So what I want to know is what do you have now in your, what are you thinking as far as what is the next thing for you? Because now you're a professor, what are your goals now?
Yes, thank you so very much for asking that question. I really wanted to say it, because I think we create by thinking about it, by talking about it, by pumping energy into it. I want to create a soul farm. The farm where you can come to nurture your soul and grow. So my partner just bought a little farm, and I was just like, yes, we're going to make a little kind of modular homes, and then people just come to enjoy quiet and come to meditate and come to eat, good food and listen to birds and walk in nature and be in the forest and just sit there and breathe. And we'll do yoga in the morning, and we'll kind of walk barefoot in dew in the morning on the grass, and we'll drink water from a well, and we'll chase chicken around the farm, and just everything that urban life doesn't give you. I'm so tired of urban life that I really crave this return to nature and just doing a regular, normal, natural thing. So you're invited one day when I have a soul farm. You are all invited to come and join me there. I know as professional women, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But just for a moment, Palasi, to come back to leaving everything. You did it too. You did it. You left your place of birth to create a new life in a new place. I think so many of us do it, and we see it in others, but we don't really see of how amazing journey path we have taken. So I acknowledge and love you for, being part of the same tribe.
Well, thank you, Aleksandra. Can I just ask one more question? Sorry, Karen, I don't mean to to take up all the time. Because you are so, you talk about the soul. What is your background? You did your master's in what? I heard Guiomar talking about health sciences. I'm just thinking, is it psychology? What is it? Why? What is this attraction to go back to the basics, the way our grandparents did it? What is that longing coming from?
Mm-hmm. The place where I was born is a mixture of cultures and religions. Mm-hmm. And I was really, really fortunate that my parents never pushed me in any direction. They were hands off, and they were just like, you find your path, read the Bible, read Quran, because we had a lot of Muslims there, read, Jewish texts. I didn't do a lot of that, but it was something falling off.
Not an acorn from a tree.
Squirrel. There are a lot of squirrels in Canada. But my parents were hands off, and what I found was Buddhism. And Buddhism answered one question that no other religion answered for me, and that's why children die. And only when I learned about the cycles of reincarnations, where soul can come back to fulfill whatever time they didn't do in a previous incarnation, it explained, well, that's why the 3-year-old child would die. And from there on, I found books by Lobsang Rampa, who was a Tibetan monk, and I read everything he wrote. And actually, his books kept me alive in Sweden, and that was really, really good. My training was in physical education, kinesiology, and then I did master's in biomechanics. I came to Western here in London, Ontario, to University of Western Ontario. I did biomechanics masters again, and then I did a PhD in kinesiology with focus on older adults. So I actually teach gerontology right now. I teach aging and health. Okay. And that's another thing, teaching aging and health make you think about lifespan, make you think about ends, make you think of how do I want to get there at the final stage of my life.
That ties so beautifully into the whole picture of your life, really. Amazing. Okay, so thank you, Palesa, for those beautiful questions and observations. Karen, is there anything you'd like to ask or share with Aleks?
Aleksandra, I loved listening to you, and I resonate with so much of what you've said. I like your view of seeing souls and not bodies. I've always had that view. And in fact, today I chatted to a friend this morning, and your idea of the soul farm, we were talking about something quite similar. So, yeah, thank you.
Let's make a franchise.
Yes. Yes.
Palesa, are you in? We'll start one as well.
No, I think we're all in. I think we lead such busy lives. We're inundated with social media input every single. I think it's a much needed thing in our society. I think for me, I always say that my reference is always how my grandparents did it. And how they lived. I mean, they were not rich people, but they had such rich lives. I always go back to that and think my grandmother was just the happiest person. Was just all that made sense to her was, I've raised my children. I now see my grandchildren. I've raised my grandchildren, and I'm so full. I don't desire anything more. And they led those simple lives, and we wonder why we're not happy. And it's because we need the soul farms. In those days, their lives were that. So it's needed. So yes, I'm in, Guiomar. I'm definitely in.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I think there was someone in a conversation recently who was talking about an American woman as well who'd been to not South Africa, but another Southern African country, and how she said she was completely blown away how these people with the fewest things and not even running water and that sort of thing were the happiest people that she'd ever encountered. So I think there's definitely some wisdom in that. So thank you.
I wanted to ask Karen,
sure.
I saw the twinkle in your eye, Karen, when Guiomar introduced you and said you have this alter ego, which is a soul spin. The part of the idea for Soul Farm, because I think we're all professional women, right? But we share this duality, and we have success in this. We figured out how this professional thing works, but we also know that there's the other side of it, which we are gravitating to, or we're attracted to. So the idea of Soul Farm is to invite people who have something to say, something to teach. So I would love to have people from all over the world, to bring the gifts to the Soul Farm and share with whoever is there at the time. So if you know meditation, if you know yoga, if you know Akashic Records, if you know whatever your gift is, because we did bring these gifts with us. So let's stay in contact.
Absolutely. Great.
We need to nurture these beautiful connections. And Guiomar, I'm just absolutely thrilled to have the opportunity to connect this way.
How wonderful. Yeah, how wonderful. So, I mean, on those words, I think they're just beautiful words to start ending our conversation. I don't know, Palesa and Kosi, if there's anything, Palesa or Karen, if there's anything you just want to say to finish. Otherwise, we can move on into closing. Is there any last remark that you'd like to make?
Just that I'm hoping to go to Canada as the next phase in my life. So I'll definitely give you a shout when I'm there. When you said you feel that you felt that you were not at home when you were in Sweden and you just wanted to explore some more, I think Canada has always been that for me. So who knows? Maybe one day I'll come and visit you and actually go to the Soul Farm. So I think that's about all. I've just really enjoyed your story. Like I said, absolutely inspirational, and that's what I want to say.
Thank you. Thanks, Palesa. Karen.
For me, I'm always blown away by synchronicity. And I've been reconnecting with a lot of people from many, many years ago, decades ago, lately. And I've met a lot of new people lately as well. And I'm about to embark on a form of heart massage, which isn't so well known around the world. And I'm super excited about it. I've inquired, it's kind of managed from Switzerland, and I'm going to experience it early July. So yes, but perhaps we can touch base another time and I can give you another update, because I think the world needs heart. I think there's a gap. Yeah.
Karen, that's a beautiful note on which to end our conversation, I think. Aleks, is there just one last thing you'd like to say, just so that you can have the last word?
I'm absolutely grateful to you, Guiomar, for you're the connector. You're the one bringing people together. Guiomar is a moderator of our Akashic Record Coming Home Circle of Love group. And I cannot tell you of how grateful I am for your work there and your work on these conversations, and for the opportunity to meet Palesa and Karen. And I really hope this is just the beginning. This is just the start.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I've no doubt that it is. So wonderful. Thank you, ladies. And as I said, the hour's going to fly by quickly, and there's going to be so much more. And I've no doubt that there will be more to come. So this is not the end. This is just the beginning. I think that's the way we need to see it. And yeah, to thank you for this, and just to close this circle of us here today. Sorry that Portia wasn't able to make it, but I'm sure she'll be joining another time. There must have been something that came up that made that not possible. So I just also, trust that something new has been awoken in each of us through the conversation we've had here today. New light switch has been turned on, a new light switch that lights up something else in the world. And and this is why I create these conversations, really, to bring together diversity. This past week, I read a fantastic article in one of our mainstream newspapers saying that South Africa is actually one of the most diverse countries in the world. So it's pretty apt that we're sitting here having this conversation. And also just to really foster the connection, community, collaboration. That is what Makeda, Queen of Africa, which is the organization that I'm creating. It's more in my heart than out there in the physical world at the moment, but that is what it's about. And so moving on a little bit, just to say I post 1 or 2 of these conversations a month. At the moment, it's just it's a series of 10. But I see with the kind of response that I'm receiving that it's going to become something ongoing. And so just our final goodbyes. And I'll be looking to also creating further opportunities for connection.
Thank you very much, Guiomar. Thank you for everything.
Okay, goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Where are you? How are you now? Should I keep driving through your town? Out of sight, out of mind. Could I catch you by surprise? Maybe I should call you, show up at your door. Maybe I could hold you like I did before. I think I'm still falling, I think I want more. I need to be honest, I can't let you go. Leave an open door and keep the light on. I just wanna show that I'm enough for you. We've come way too far just to give up. It wouldn't be right, no, it wouldn't be right. You still feel like home, feel like home, feel like home. Nothing feels like home.